Hi, my name is Michelle, and I will show you how to upload your 3D models to Google Poly Pro so that it can be used in Swirl display ads. In this tutorial, we will be using a 3D model made in Maya that is ready for implementation in the Google Web Designer Swirl component. Before making your own creative, refer to the Best Practice section of the Swirl onboarding document for tips on how to concept and design for the format and to check out inspirational examples. Use the asset guide available in the description below to create your 3D model to spec within Poly and Swirl requirements. First, you will need to have the Babylon.js Maya to GLTF exporter plugin installed. You can find the download link below in the description of the video. Before you export a model with an animation, you will need to specify which frames are used for the animation. In the top menu, go to Babylon, then Animation Groups. Click Create. Specify a name for the animation. Specify a start and end frame for the animation. Click Confirm and close the window. You can also specify additional animation clips by clicking Create again for each new clip. After the animation clip has been specified, you can export the model. Go to Babylon, then Babylon File Exporter. In the Exporter window, first set the output format to GLTF. Then click the button next to the empty file name field to specify a file name and location for your export. Each model you create will need different export options, but for this tutorial model, tick the following options. Copy textures to output. You can disable this option, but then you will need to copy the textures to the output folder yourself. If any texture files are missing, uploading to Google Poly will fail. Optimize vertices. In some cases, the exporter can significantly decrease the file size without losing any details in your model. Be sure to always double-check the result, though, as sometimes you get deformations, especially with skinned models. Bake animation frames. Keep this box ticked for the best result when working with animations. Other export options that are commonly used are Export hidden objects. Some components may be hidden to get a better overview of your file. Instead of unhiding everything again, you can simply tick this box. Export only selected. In case you don't want to export your entire file, for instance, because it still contains reference material, you can select only the components you wish to export and tick this box. Export skins. Used for exporting skinned objects. You may want to switch off Optimize vertices, as mentioned before. It can create undesired results. Export tangents. If the surfaces of your model do not look right with this option off, the vertex normals have been altered from their default values. Ticking this box may fix this problem. You can then click Export and wait for it to complete. Now that we have the exported files, we can upload them to Google Poly Pro. While signed into a Google account, navigate to poly.google.com/pro. Select an existing project folder or create a new project. Click New. Click Create Project. Enter a relevant name for the project. Click Create. Open the Created Project folder by clicking it. You will need to enable link sharing for your project. Link sharing allows projects and all their assets to be shared with anyone provided with the project URL. It is also required for assets to import for Swirl creatives. To enable, click on the link share icon and then toggle link sharing on. To upload the files, click Upload Asset. Drag the files into the drop zone, or click Select Files from your device. Select the files. Click Open. The uploaded asset will appear in the project overview. Clicking on the asset will allow you to view it. Click on the eye icon to see asset info. Be sure to review this as the asset size requirement for a Swirl ad is 2 MB maximum. If the file size has exceeded this threshold, the asset will be visually downgraded when loaded in the final display ad. You can edit the asset with the Poly Editor. Open it by clicking the Edit button in the top right corner. The first Properties tab you see is the Geometry tab. You can select and configure the default animation clip if present and any autoplay or looping behavior. The animation for this tutorial model is only a rotation on its y-axis. The Google Web Designer developer might prefer doing the rotation by code instead. In this case, you can pause the animation on the first frame by doing the 2 following steps. Set the playback speed to 0.00. Set the time slider to the beginning of the animation. Note that you can also get a static model by disabling autoplay, but then the model is static at the 50% mark of the animation. This might not give you the desired viewing angle. If you wish to rename your asset at any time, you can hover over the name and click the pencil icon that will appear. In case the materials for your model are not finalized yet, you can edit them in the Materials tab. You can change the properties of any materials in the scene, including uploading and assigning textures, altering the intensity of the texture maps, give emission to the materials, and control transparency. The template model does not need tweaking at this point, so we're moving on. This is the Presentation tab. There are a few things on the Presentation tab that you almost always need to do for your Swirl models. Disable the shadows. If you have animations, you need to disable the shadows. Currently, the shadows are automatically generated based on the initial position of the model, so when animations play, the shadows will not follow along. Set the motion path to no motion. Any uploaded asset will slowly rotate on its y-axis, unless you disable it by selecting this option. Next to that, you can choose a background color. You can either select a color or upload a background image, but do note that this image counts in the 2 MB file size limit. Select Environment Lighting. I highly recommend using environmental lighting instead of directional. Your assets will look much better. Environment lighting creates an extra layer of realism and is actually required for reflective surfaces. You can choose between several environment lighting presets already in Google Poly. Change the key light. You can adjust the color and intensity of the key light. The next tab is for the camera setting. Next to the ability to position the model, you can also enter limitations for zooming and rotation. These limitations are to prevent the user from altering the view of the product too much, like zooming in till the camera is inside the model. Initial camera view. By default, the initial camera view is the view you set in your viewport. You can also manually set the positioning to precise values by selecting Set Manually, which is recommended if you use initial camera view. First, position the product correctly. Move the product around until you are satisfied with its position. Then you can save the position settings. When you're content with the placement, then click on Set Manually. This will save the settings so that you can access and copy them in case you need to upload the model again at a later time. You can customize the field of view. And you can choose the center of rotation when the user rotates the asset. The center of rotation could either be locked to the center of the view or the center of the object. Then we need to set the camera limitations. Enable camera rotation limits. Yaw limits. Limits horizontal movement around the model. For example, to prevent users from being able to see the back of the model. Pitch limits. Restricts how far above or below the object the camera can rotate. For example, to prevent users from being able to see the bottom of the model. Enable camera zoom limits. You can choose to have the camera at a fixed distance, or you can enter values to have the camera distance limited to the user's inputs. In the drop-down menu, you can select Unlimited Camera Distance, but we don't recommend using this option, as the user would be able to zoom out as much as he wants. You can also set it as Fixed Camera Distance. The user cannot change the zoom level at all. And finally, you can select Limited Camera Distance. Set your minimum distance to the closest point that you allow the user to view the model from. but be careful at this zoom level to make sure that the camera doesn't go through the geometry at any point in its rotation, and set a maximum distance to prevent the user from moving too far away from the object. The last tab is the Hotspots tab. It is used to create hotspots on your model, which can be linked to certain events. We won't use this feature in this tutorial. We're done with editing the Poly instance. Click Save. The asset is now uploaded. You can find it back in your dashboard. All that is left to do is to get the asset ID so it can be used in Google Web Designer. Copy the asset ID from the URL. It's the series of numbers and letters after poly.google.com/pro/asset. This ID can be pasted into the GWD Swirl component. That does it for exporting and setting up your 3D models in Google Poly. Thanks for watching.